Welcome back and welcome to all my new subscribers. I'm Veronica and today I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful explosion box mini album. If this is something you want to try, keep watching. In this video, I'll be creating the base of the box and all the pockets, and in the next video, I'll be adding the decorative elements. Just a heads up, there will be a lot of measuring, cutting and gluing. So if there's any step that you don't fully understand, please comment or message me. I would be happy to try and help you. You can find a list of the requirements and all the measurements in the description box. Let's make it. We're going to cut a square measuring 9 by 9 inches. Then we're going to score at 3, turn, score at 3, turn, score at 3, turn, and score at 3 again. Now fold along all the score lines and make sure you press it down very well. Now we need to score the corners diagonally, so make very sure, because this needs to be very precise. Take your time and make sure you're right in the corners. Now to fold them. I find it easier if you just pinch and then turn and fold it flat. So the fold needs to go in like that. So pinch, fold down, burnish. Carry on until you've done all the corners. Now fold it up into the box shape to make sure all the edges align perfectly. Next we'll do the spine, and here are your measurements. We're going to cut one strip measuring 3 by 9 inches, and you can do this from the leftover piece that you have. Now for the scoring, and you really need to focus on this part to get it right. We're going to score at quarter, half, half, quarter, half, half, quarter, half, half, quarter, and you carry on in this way until you reach the end of the strip. Remember to focus and count those quarters and halves. I did mess mine up and had to redo it again, so stay focused. And you should end up with something looking like this, with lots of score lines. You can double check your scoring by counting the double thick lines in between the thin score lines. There should be 7. Your score lines will go all the way to the end of the strip. You won't have this excess piece like mine. I just have it because I was trying to get the exact measurements, which is 3 by 9 inches. Now to fold it, you want to fold on the line between the 2 half-inch pieces. Fold it backwards so that the half-inch pieces sit back to back. Continue until you folded all of these. Now we need to fold on the quarter-inch lines, and they need to fold forward. Here you can see what it should look like. The half-inch pieces should face up with a small flat quarter-inch piece in between all of them. So continue folding on the quarter-inch lines. Remember to fold them forward and continue until you folded all of them. Now you have to train this concertina looking piece. Pull the folded parts closer together and pinch. And this is what it should look like at this point. Now turn your piece over, because we're going to put double-sided tape on all the flat 1/4 inch parts on the back. If you're not using double-sided tape and just regular glue, skip this step. This double-sided tape is exactly 1/4 inch wide, so it fits perfectly. Take your time with this step to make sure you put the double-sided tape exactly and perfectly on those 1/4 inch parts. This is the back of the spine, the part that you'll be gluing down into the bottom of the box. Next step, we need to close these 1/2 inch parts by gluing them together. Put your tape or glue on one side of each of the double 1/2 inch parts. You can use any glue for this step. If you use double-sided tape like I did, start removing the backing of the tape only from the 1/2 inch parts. I like to add some PVA glue to the double-sided tape just to make sure nothing comes apart somewhere down the line. Now you can glue these flaps together by just folding it in. Burnish it down to make sure it's really well adhered. Now just continue until all these flaps are glued. And that's your spine. At this point you can train your spine a little bit further by folding it forwards and backwards, just to help it to kind of find its place and fold easier. And here's what it looks like from the back and the side. So this piece we'll be gluing down in the middle of the box on the inside. Just kind of pull up the sides of the box to make sure it fits perfectly. Before you glue it down, just cut the corners of the flaps at a slight angle. This will help the pockets to slide over easier. Now we're ready to glue the spine into the box. So for those that use double-sided tape, you can now remove the backing. For those that use regular glue, just apply your glue. Again, I'm reinforcing the double-sided tape with PVA glue, just to make sure nothing comes apart. Carefully position your spine where you want to glue it down. This is also another reason why I like to use the wet glue, so that I can move the spine if it's not perfectly aligned. Press down in between the grooves to make sure you have a good adherence, and also clean up any glue that might seep out. Keep on pressing down and making sure everything is glued down perfectly. While this is drying, we're going to start making the pockets that fit onto the spine. And here are the measurements. Cut 4 strips measuring 6.5 by 3 inches. This is for the top loading pockets. And 3 strips measuring 6 by 3.5 inches for the side loading pockets. I like to mark mine with a tiny sticky note so that I know which is which and I don't get confused. Now for the scoring, let's start with the top loading pockets. That's the 6.5 by 3 inch strip. We're going to score at 3 and we're going to score at 6 inches. Now for the side loading pockets, that's the 6 by 3.5 inch strip. You're going to score at the 3 inch mark. Then turn your page and score at the 3 inch mark again. That will leave you 1/2 inch overlap. Now let's shape those side loading pockets. Fold them down and burnish them on the score lines. Then we're going to cut away half of the flap, like I'm showing here, and then just angle the corners slightly of the flap that's left over. The top loading pockets are pretty straightforward. You're just going to fold it on the score lines and cut the corners of the flaps at a slight angle. Now continue shaping the rest of the pockets. Now let's glue those pockets. You can use any glue for this step as long as it's gonna hold. I'm again using a mix of the double-sided tape and PVA glue. Turn your strip upside down with the outside facing toward you. Then apply your glue to the little half-inch flap. Peel away the double-sided tape backing and apply your glue. Now you can just close the pocket by folding the two parts together and the glue will be on the inside. Remember to clean off any glue that seeped out immediately because on the black it can show. Continue to glue until you've finished all 4 of your top loading pockets. Now make sure that there's no restriction on the inside. Maybe there was some glue that seeped out. Just make sure everything opens up perfectly. Now for the side loading pockets, we're going to be doing exactly the same as the top loading pockets. Start by putting your glue on the little half-inch flap on the side. Then fold the flap in and close the pocket. Now glue the rest of them until you have 3 side loading pockets. Now we're going to glue the pockets onto these little flaps of the spine that we made earlier. Now if you're going to use double-sided tape for this step, you can do this all in one step, or if you're going to use regular wet glue, just do it one by one. So I'm using double-sided tape and I'm putting a strip of tape on each side of every flap. First going the one way, then turning and coming back the other way to make sure every flap has a strip of double-sided tape. When attaching the pockets, you need to be patient and take your time. Start removing the backing of your double-sided tape. Then carefully position the pocket over the flap. Push it down, get it in place, and glue it. Now take your next pocket. Remember, we need to alternate between top loading and side loading pockets, so this one will be a side loading pocket. Remove your tape. Slide your pocket in from the side, carefully position it. I found it's easier if you just wiggle it around a bit, move it forwards and backwards, and then just try and line it up with the previous pocket to make sure all the sides are aligned and everything is straight. Now continue to glue your pockets and remember to alternate between top loading and side loading pockets. Here you can see I'm trying to fix a mistake I made. Something I didn't mention is remember also alternate between left and right side of the side loading pockets. So the previous one was from the left side, so this one will be on the right side, the opening. So here's what it should look like by now. You can continue to glue in the rest of the pockets and remember to alternate between top and side loading pockets. And here they are: a top loading pocket, a left side loading pocket, a top loading pocket, right side loading, top loading, left side loading pocket, and another top loading pocket. These are your pockets. So let's just give the box a quick fold just to make sure that everything fits and aligns perfectly, and then we can make the lid. Here are your measurements for the lid. We're going to cut a square measuring 7 2/8 by 7 2/8, that's in inches. And then we're going to score at 1 inch and at 2 inches. Turn your paper, score at 1, score at 2, turn, score at 1, score at 2, turn, score at 1, and score at 2. Now fold on all the score lines and make sure you push it down really well. Now cut away the corner on all sides. You can cut just inside the score lines. Now you also need to cut away the next 2 corners. Sure, you could have done this in one go, but I just find it easier this way, just to make sure I don't make a mistake. And you end up with this shape almost looking like a star. Now to enable these flaps to fold in properly, we're going to need to cut a slit. So you're going to cut the slit along the bottom right flap on each side and just up to the score line. Now it can fold in, but we still need to angle those little flaps to make space for the other flap to fold over. So this little flap, you're going to cut at a slight angle, just like this. Now it folds much easier. So go ahead and do the same on the other 3 corner flaps. When you start folding the lid, you'll notice there will be more areas that need some trimming, so just go ahead and trim off just inside the score lines. Now to glue all these little flaps in place, put a bit of glue or double-sided tape on the very outer edge of the outside flaps. Do this all around, and then also put some glue or double-sided tape on the outside of the tiny flaps. Make sure it's on the outside of the flaps. So it should look like this. Now remove your tape backing and get ready to start gluing. So the small flap needs to glue to the inside of the next flap. I found this step to be easier if you just pick up the box, then you can carefully position the flap exactly on the edge. And then you just press down to glue it in place. Then carry on with the next side. Same process. Carefully position it, press it down to glue, and continue on to the next one. Once you have all those small flaps glued in place, you should have this little box shape. Now you can fold down the last flaps and just press it down to glue in place. Next step, we need to make the fold outs that go inside the box. So here are the measurements. We're going to cut one square measuring 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 inches. Now score at 2 3/4. Then turn your page, score again at 2 3/4, and carry on until you've scored all the sides at 2 3/4. Now just fold on all the score lines. Now it looks similar to the base of the box, but we're going to cut away these corners. I'm using a craft knife because I cannot cut straight with my scissors. Be sure to cut inside the score lines, otherwise it will not fold in properly. So go ahead and cut away all 4 corners until you're left with this cross-shaped piece. So now you can just fold it to make sure it folds perfectly flat, and if there's more trimming required on any of the sides, just go ahead and do that now. Now for the concertina or accordion fold out. Here's the measurements. We're going to cut one strip measuring 11 by 2 3/4 inches. Now score along the short edge at 2 3/4, 5 1/2, and 8 1/4. Now you can fold on the score lines, bringing one forward and one backward, and again forward, to create this accordion style. And now let's get these fold outs into the box. Just place them down where you need them to be, because first we need to add some sort of closure to keep the fold outs closed. So measure a string or a ribbon and make sure it's just long enough to go around the fold out and tie into a bow. Now apply your double-sided tape across the ribbon all the way on the edges on the back of the fold out. If you're not using double-sided tape, just skip this step for now. Now do the same with the other fold out. We are just preparing them at this stage and will only be gluing them down later on. Now let's make the pocket inserts. Before grabbing a new sheet of paper or cardstock, remember to check your offcuts, maybe some of them fit the measurements. For the top loading inserts, we need to cut 4 strips measuring 5 by 2 3/4. Then also go ahead and cut 3 strips measuring 5 1/2 by 2 1/2 inches, that's for the side pockets. There's no need to score these, you simply just fold them in half. You can also cut your 5 squares for the front loading pockets measuring 2 1/2 by 2 1/2 inches. There you have your top loading inserts and your side loading inserts, and you can put them into their pockets just to keep them out of the way. And you can just put your front loading inserts to the side for now. Now let's make the front loading pockets. Here are your measurements. Cut 5 rectangles measuring 2 by 3.5 inches. Now score each piece first along the long side at 1/2 inch, then turn and score at 3/8 on both sides. The scoring at 3/8 is just an indication. It does not have to be accurate as long as you can fold both ends around the insert. Then fold on all the score lines, and now we need to trim out the corners so that the pocket can fold properly. On all the sides with the flaps, cut inward carefully just up to the score line. Then also on this side and on the other side. Now continue making the rest of the pockets in the same way. To cut the notch, I fold in the side flaps and center my template exactly in the middle, draw a line and then cut it out. You can also use your circle punch or any other punch that you like for this step. Now complete the other 3 front loading pockets. When you're done, just keep them in your box safely with the inserts. We will be gluing them down in the next video, where we will start using decorative papers. So when your box is complete, you might want to start thinking about your decorative papers, start planning and getting them ready, and I'll see you next week to show you how to do it.